And welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about aftermarket inner fender liners like these from Grimm Offroad and why you might want a set. Now, if you're thinking that inner fender liners are 100% purely cosmetic, well, you're only about 80% right, because many people put these in just to make their Jeep look a little different. But there are some practical reasons why you might want some aftermarket inner fenders. So the number one reason on the JL and JT is when you're trying to put larger tires on, you're going to be doing a fender chop. And that's splitting that fender right here at this seam, dropping out everything underneath, and that includes that plastic inner fender. And once you've done that, that engine bay is now open to both on and off-road debris. And so an aftermarket set of inner fenders, that makes it a lot easier to seal that up and make it look good. Now, another reason is if you've installed aftermarket high-performance shocks with reservoirs or remote reservoirs, especially those that have large hoses or even dual hoses going out to the resis. And yes, that inner plastic liner, the factory one, that's easy to trim because it's plastic. But sometimes it's hard to get that trim job to look really nice. And inner fenders like these from Grimm, they're often aluminum. And so they're easy to trim and it's easy to get a nice looking trim job. Now, as far as installation is concerned, they really are pretty easy to install. And there it is. Okay, maybe it's not that easy, but it is a very simple install, and we're going to show you how to do that right now. Now to start, we're going to remove 5 bolts from the factory inner fender liner. There's one here, there's one here, there's one up in there, one up in here, and our last one's right there. So they take a 10 mil socket. All right, then down right here at the back of the fender liner, you've got these push pins. We can just pop them out with a panel tool. Back at the inner fender liner, we've got these 2 push pins, and they just need a little panel tool in there. Grab a hammer and a little punch, and we want to use them right in these rivets. You have all these rivets on the outside. We're going to set it right in there center and just give it a little tap. And you just want to drive that center pin all the way in. Now, if you get them really tight, get somebody to come in and put their hand right on top of the fender, and they're just going to stabilize that. And our last one here. There we go. Once you have all those pins driven through, then we can come in and pull the rivet out. All right, then you have more of these Christmas tree pins. Now, if you get a real stubborn one, you can come in with some needle nose and reach underneath it, grab it, and really reef on it. You're not going to be reusing them anyway. Oh yeah, here's bolt number 6 right here. Let's get that one out of the way too. Then we can just peel that inner liner right out. And there's that factory plastic inner liner. Now with that inner fender liner out of the way, everything's wide open. It's the perfect time to install a Grimm Offroad under the hood compressor kit. And that's gonna mount your air compressor right here. Remove the push pins from the lower plastic cover and discard those pins in that cover. Then remove the push pins that are holding the wiring harness right up against the outer bulkhead. Move the upper flare harness plug back behind the fender and use zip ties to secure it. Install the top mounting bolt, nut, and washer, but only screw it in a couple threads. It needs to be loose to clear the rear panel. Installing a riv nut in that position makes it a lot easier. Slide the rear panel up into position and up behind that top mounting screw and washer. Use a 10mm wrench from the back side and a T30 bit on the front side to snug it up, but don't tighten it fully yet. Hold the front panel up into place. You'll see right at the top, there's the 2 white flare clips. You're going to need to remove those clips, and then you need to trim the plastic inner flare structure covering them. We used a panel tool to pry the flare out, just enough to remove the white clips. Then used a utility knife with a brand new blade on it to trim the plastic buckets out of the way. Install the clip nuts onto the forward panel and slip the mounting tab up in behind the fender. You can install the T30 screws and washers for a test fit. Now note the position of the forward panel mounting hole. That is where the forward mounting bracket goes. Okay, now you want to find these brackets right here. One's marked D for driver, the other has a P for passenger side. And it's going to slip right in between these two brackets. So you see this lower orange bracket, this upper black bracket. We're going to remove that screw right there. Takes a 10mm wrench, and we've got a little speedy wrench here to make it faster. Oh yeah, speedy wrenches are nice. We're going to lift this bracket up, we're going to slide it in, and then we can put that bolt back in place. And we don't want to tighten it all the way down, just snug it up a little bit so we can move it. Now typically if you just line this edge up right here, that little tip on the aluminum bracket and that lower steel bracket, that's about the perfect position. As we put this panel in, we'll find out if we need to move it forward, back, maybe bend it down a little bit, bend it up. So we're going to take another one of those clip nuts, and that's just going to snap down on top. Okay, so now our main piece is going to slip in right behind this fender, and we're going to install these bolts right up into those clip nuts. Now you want to look really carefully up here. Can you get it to line up? I need to move it just a little bit, so I'm going to move it forward. Oh yeah, there we go. There's the perfect placement for it. Now that we have this in the right spot, let's go ahead and take this panel back out and we can tighten that screw in the back. Okay, now here's a trick we've learned from installing a few other sets, is we went down to our local auto parts store and we just got some fender welting. And it's just gonna slip on just like this. This one's pretty tough. They do make softer ones out there. Okay, so we've got our fender welting in, and it'd be really neat if Grimm started including that in the kits. And you can go all the way across this back section too, but we found it's really most necessary up front up here. It'll make it look a little bit nicer, but more importantly, it'll keep that panel rattle down. There's one bolt. And again, we don't want to tighten everything because we do need a little bit of adjustment as we line everything else back up. Now for our next panel, this one's going to slip in behind the upper panels, and then it's got to come right in behind this little cut right here. Now this bottom panel, it's going to go through both this one, and then through the Jeep fender. And then we're going to put a 10mm nut on the back. I should say we're going to put a nut on the back that takes a 10mm wrench. Now our last panel is this little guy right here, and that's going to slip right in through the back side. All right, we've got all our panels in, everything lines up. Now we want to tighten all that hardware, but we want to be careful in what order we tighten it, and I'm going to show you why. So let's go ahead and start up here and get this one tight. And let's go ahead and do the next 3 here. Actually make it 4. Then we want to get these 2 tightened up here. All right, and then we're going to tighten just these 2 top ones. And now we've got to pull this panel back out. Now the reason we want to pull this one out is we've got to get to the nut on the back side of that bolt. And now we can get this one nice and tight. Then that panel can go back in and we can tighten that hardware. Now in the past, we've done a riv nut behind here. That way we can just screw that bolt in and out nice and easy. Fortunately, I'm out of them, so we're just gonna do it the old-fashioned way. Now that we've got it all tightened, we wanna double check everything for clearance. And I'm seeing we're tight right here on the reservoir boss of this Falcon 3.3 shock. And so the nice thing about this aluminum is we can just grab it and just bend it just a little bit, just to give us a little bit of clearance. You could also go in there and just do a little trimming, which by the look of it, I think that's what we're gonna need to do, is just a little trimming right there. To trim that inner fender panel, we just used a flap disc on a 4-inch hand grinder. So here's an example of why you would want to trim. This JL came into our shop not too long ago with the Grimm inner fender liner and the same Falcon shocks, and they were touching, and you can actually see a little bit of a wear there. So just a little bit of trimming will give that clearance you need. All right, now that we've made our adjustments, let's take a look, see how close we got. So there we go, all installed. We've got it trimmed to fit around our reservoir base, even put a little bit more of that welting there in case we do get some flex and they touch. So let's just get all my grubby fingerprints off of there and we're done. Now, of course, you can paint these, you can have them anodized, powder coated, or you just leave them aluminum, which is what we're gonna do. And there you have the inner liners from Grimm Offroad. Now, one of the things I want to point out is this little bracket right here, and it looks like we're already missing a clip off of it, but you can see it sticks out from the edge of the fender. So you can come in and just cut one whole section of this bracing across there, and it'll give you a little bit more tire clearance for that tire to come back. Of course, on this one with the factory rock rails, we're going to be hitting that before we hit this guy. All right, it's been a couple weeks since we shot that first part of the video. And it's just because, well, we had some parts installs come up, and then we had a couple nice days here in the Northwest, so we got this Jeep out on the trail. But that pause was a good thing because it reminded me of a couple things I wanted to go over. 2 good things and 1 negative thing, and the negative thing isn't all that bad. But when you remove that whole plastic inner liner, and that comes all the way up to the edge of your flare, if you're not gonna do the fender chop, you've now exposed some of this inner structure inside your flare. And it's just a place for more road grime, off-road dirt and mud to get caught up in there. So you have a little bit more cleaning, but really that's not that big of a deal. Because the benefits are, well, you have the extra venting in those inner fenders. And on one of those nice days we were out on the trail, you could actually feel the heat coming out from the engine compartment. And so those vents are allowing excessive engine heat to escape, just helping us keep this Jeep to run cooler. Now, my favorite benefit is ease of access to work on it. Now, one of the reasons we put this project on hold is that we had a chance to install one of those new Apex Performance TSR kits, that through shaft ram kit. And to do so, you need to get at your steering box. Well, it was only 7 screws, and the whole front half of that Grimm inner liner came right out. And you could get at that steering box really easy. And here in a couple weeks, we're gonna be installing that Apex boost kit that goes into the pump on the passenger side. It'll be the same thing. 7 screws, that whole half comes right out. We can work on it, put that thing right back in, and we're done. So for a tech head like me who likes easy access to things to work on, these inner fenders are really nice. Now, with all that said, we're pretty much at a wrap for this video. So if you're thinking about inner fenders for your Jeep, well, drop right down and hit those links below. And then while you're down there, stop in the comments section and say hi and leave us any comments. What do you think about these Grimm inner fender liners? And if you've got any questions, drop those too. I'll meet you down there and answer them for you. Thanks for watching today. We'll see you again soon.